Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing okay. If you're new here, my name is Emily. I have a 1-year-old little boy called Marley and I'm currently pregnant with my 4th pregnancy, but hopefully our 2nd baby. So today's video, I kind of wanted to run through all the symptoms I had in my first trimester from like 4 weeks up until 12 weeks, just because I find that really handy. Like, I love looking at videos like this and like comparing, thinking, do I feel like that? Did they feel like that? And kind of comparing, you know what I mean? So I thought it'd be quite a helpful video to make, especially as, I was gonna say it's like your first pregnancy, but I forgot everything. Like this pregnancy, I was like, when was I feeling this with Marley's pregnancy? When was I feeling that? When did the nausea start? When did the nausea disappear? So yeah, I literally forgot all my symptoms and when they appeared, when they disappeared. So I thought I'd make a little video and help you guys out and maybe help myself out in the future. Probably not. I'm pretty sure this is our last pregnancy, but you never know. So I won't waffle on for too long. I'll get straight onto it. So before my missed period symptoms, so I didn't really have any symptoms before my missed period other than kind of just knowing. Does that make sense? Like I kind of just, there was just a vibe. It was just a feeling of like, I will say I was definitely going to the toilet more, mainly on a night, and I was definitely kind of going to the toilet in the middle of the night, which wasn't normal. But I'd say that's about it, you know, for like before my missed period. So once I found out kind of the first week, I obviously started making a note of my symptoms. So these symptoms might have started before my period, I just wasn't really paying attention. So the first major one for me, and this happened literally like as soon as I found out, was my milk supply just absolutely, it just plummeted. It disappeared basically. Poor Marley was feeding and he just wasn't getting anything. He was getting frustrated, I was getting frustrated, because they do say in pregnancy your milk supply will dry up eventually, but I did not expect it to happen at the 4-week mark. So that was like huge. Definitely, I don't know if it dried up, but it definitely decreased by a lot. It did come back, but we'll talk about that. I definitely became emotional and moody. Hormones were definitely doing their thing. Yeah, emotional, moody, just the typical, but then again I'm typically quite a moody, emotional person, so maybe I just blame it on the pregnancy. And then the last one, which was awful at the beginning, was the metallic taste in my mouth, especially on a morning. It was just vile. It literally, ugh, not good. So week 5, I've written that metallic taste was still lingering, especially on a morning. It was a lot worse. And week 5 is actually when morning sickness started for me. And with my previous pregnancies, I've never really had much morning sickness. I've had a bit of nausea, but this time it was just different. So I did vlog about it. So if you've seen my like 4 to 6 week pregnancy vlog, you'll know I woke up one morning and it hit me like a truck. I was so nauseous and just trying to eat something, but food was definitely working at the 5-week mark. So long as I was snacking, eating, I was fine. I definitely noticed at the 5-week mark I was going to the toilet more, so definitely going for lots more wheeze, especially on a night. I noticed at week 5 I was definitely becoming a lot more out of breath, short of breath. Walking up the stairs, carrying Marley up the stairs became a no-go already at that point, and I had to just let him walk up and I just stand behind him because I couldn't do both. I've wrote on here that at 8 o'clock at night I just totally crashed. It was like I just had no energy, no motivation. It's like a whole different type of exhaustion, is that pregnancy exhaustion. And it would just totally come over me, consume me at 8 o'clock, and I wasn't doing anything after 8. So I wrote 5-week mark, my milk supply came back up towards the end of week 5. Thank goodness, because Marley was not vibing with the no milk. He wanted his mama milk. he wanted his milk. So it definitely came back. He was getting just as much as he was before. He was still feeding just as often, you know, like 6 times a night. Love that for me. Yeah, so he was feeding a lot more and my milk supply had just come back, so that was wonderful. Panic over. He wasn't quite 1 by this point either, so when my milk supply did disappear, I was like, oh my goodness, like I am not giving him formula for like the last couple of weeks of like, you know, I'd gone through the entire first year of his life, no formula. I wasn't about to supplement for the last like month, so luckily it came back and we didn't need to do that, so that's fine. Week 6, I wrote food aversions, and I think that kind of comes over like the morning sickness, just like under that whole rainbow, because the morning sickness definitely picked up at this point. I think it was probably week 6 when I got my anti-nausea bands, which I don't think did anything. I don't think they did a thing. Yeah, so I was really like gagging at every food, gagging at just everything. Everything was gross. Didn't want to eat anything. Felt horrendous. Week 6, I really started to notice acid reflux on a night. Like horrendous. I didn't try Rennies or anything for it, so it can't have been that bad, otherwise I would have been on the Rennies. But yeah, on a night it was really bad, and I remember I was having to like drink a glass of milk, which again with morning sickness, that was horrendous. Again though, the morning sickness, it was, well, it was all day at 6 weeks. Yeah, it was all day long, and I think about 6 weeks I was just laid on the sofa, literally feeling crap all day. Just getting up to go to the kitchen to make Marley food was ugh. I wrote that I got like my first craving, which was lemon. I was just really craving like a pure lemon, or lemon in Coca-Cola, just lemon. Jordan bought me like loads of lemon flavoured stuff, but they were no, they were not hitting it. I needed like an actual lemon. So week 7, I think week 7 is probably when the morning sickness peaked for me, and it got to the point where I was thinking, oh my god, what have I signed myself up for? Like, I started thinking about all the stories I've heard of women who had morning sickness throughout their entire pregnancy, and I was like, I cannot do that. The house was a mess. Me and Marley were like living in pajamas. We weren't getting out. It was just awful. Yeah, so that was not fun. Was really struggling to eat anything, but at the same time, if I didn't eat, that morning sickness was just like uncontrollable if I didn't eat. I was also really struggling to drink water at this point, because just anything been in my belly, like slushing around. Ugh. I wrote on here horrid taste in my mouth in the morning. I don't know if I was referring to the metallic taste again, or if this was a new horrid taste. But yeah, mouth still wasn't tasting great at 7 weeks apparently. We also had our first ultrasound at 7 weeks. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that. That was lovely. We got to see the little heart flickering. So yeah, we got to see baby at 7 weeks. Not really a symptom, but week 8, my symptoms started fading. And I say symptoms, mainly the morning sickness started fading, which is a blessing and a curse, because obviously you panic, you go, oh no, symptoms are decreasing, that means hormones are decreasing, which isn't good news, especially when you have had previous losses like I have. I definitely went into overthinking, but it was right around the time of Marley's birthday and his birthday party, and I am so grateful I was able to like get up, get his party ready, and just have a great time celebrating his first birthday. So that was definitely a blessing. I was very, very, very grateful that the morning sickness decided to take a step down at that point. And you know what, like 3-4 weeks of it was more than enough for me. The ladies that go on to have morning sickness throughout their entire pregnancy, and God forbid the people who have, is it HG? Oh, how you people survive, I do not know, because it is horrendous. 8 weeks, I wrote that I started getting some crazy dreams, and pregnancy dreams really are just absolutely insane. Obviously don't remember what any of those dreams were, but they were crazy apparently. I was getting really tired at this point, but this is also when like the insomnia started, and I was just not able to get to sleep on a night, which when you're already exhausted, looking after a toddler all day and pregnant and then not being able to sleep, no, that was not fun. That was not fun at all. But then to be fair, looking back, we also had quite a lot of stress with Marley's party and like who was coming, who wasn't coming, and the holiday we had coming up. So maybe I was just stressed in general and not able to sleep because my mind was just in overdrive. Maybe that's also just as likely, I would say. I wrote that I had some back pain, so at this point I think it was in my upper back, and probably from like feeding Marley, moving around the house, just picking Marley up, I definitely started to notice my back was not vibing with me after kind of 6 o'clock at night. After that time, just bending over to change Marley's nappy or get him dressed was painful. Weeks 9, the crazy dreams were still very apparent at this point. I literally said to Jay, like, I should have started writing like the little short stories this pregnancy just of my dreams, because that would be like a bestseller, because there were some wild moments. I wrote on here that the sickness kind of came back. It was like lingering, wasn't anywhere near as bad as before where I was just stuck on the sofa all day, but definitely on a morning it was still there, and it was still just lingering, feeling a bit like ugh, needing to snack constantly to keep it kind of at bay. I was living off like, you know, like cereal bars, those chocolate squares bars, yeah, literally anything. Digestives were a winner at this point. I wrote that I had literally no motivation and no energy by this point, which I'm still kind of struggling with that now, guys. And it is just the worst when you've got a toddler who wants to play and be wild, and you just don't have the energy to get down and play with them. It makes you feel so bad. But I know that like he understands. Well, he doesn't, but that's almost better. But yeah, it's temporary, and in the long run, obviously it is so worth it to have another baby. At the 9-week mark, I started to feel like the baby on a morning. I don't mean like moving, but if I was like laid on my back first thing on a morning, I could tell like where the baby was. Like it's like a lump. Probably just like my uterus, not the actual baby. But yeah, I definitely started feeling that at 9 weeks. So I started with leg cramps at 9 weeks, which I didn't get that until the very end of my pregnancy with Marley, and it's just awful. Like dead legs, feel like you can't move them. It's the worst feeling. And with Marley, I had like this expert midwife leg mist or something, and I had Jay searching the whole house for it, but yeah, it was non-existent. We couldn't find it anywhere, so I must have used it all. But yeah, that was brutal at the 9 weeks. And the last symptom for 9 weeks is Marley really became like a mummy's boy, and he was just boob obsessed. He was feeding all day, every day. He was loving it, getting all the milk in. Yeah, so 10 weeks, I was feeling the baby uterus, whatever you want to call it, really clear on a morning, like every single morning at this point. Even like seeing it, like a little bump, and first thing on a morning. But at this point I felt sick on a morning just before breakfast. Once I'd eaten breakfast it was fine, but before breakfast it was still like retching, gagging, running to the toilet. But once I'd got that first meal in me, I was good to go for the rest of the day. Definitely still very tired at the 10 weeks mark. I think tiredness has just got more and more, so to be expected. Yeah, still very tired at the 10-week mark. I had like no patience. I was just a bit snappy, mainly with Jay, but also with Marley. I found myself not having the energy to explain things as much, and just kind of saying, stop that, no, don't do that, you know, rather than what I would normally do of like, hey, please don't do this because of this reason and blah blah blah. I was just kind of, yeah, lost my patience at that point. 11 weeks. So this was while we were on holiday. So luckily the sickness kind of kept at bay still while we were away. Definitely on a morning I was like, we need to get up and go to breakfast. I aren't hanging around getting ready, I need to eat. It was still sick before breakfast kind of vibes. I really struggled on the holiday of having no energy and no motivation. Like I just could not be bothered to get up. Not that I couldn't be bothered. It was like my whole body just couldn't get up and go play with Marley, but obviously Joe was there all day every day, he wasn't at work, so he was able to step up and make sure Marley had a wonderful holiday, and he had the best holiday ever. And I got to spend time chilling, which I probably needed. Yeah, I just didn't have the energy to like chase him, and it made me so sad. I obviously tried and did it parts, I didn't just sit down the whole holiday, but yeah, it was a struggle. I was also again really struggling to sleep while we were on holiday, but I don't know if that was, you know, it's a new environment, a new bed, and also so it was like 2 single beds, so we'd push them together for me and Marley to co-sleep, and because there was the gap I didn't want to risk him falling in it, even though they were like pushed together, so I was sleeping on that, which wasn't exactly comfy. So that could have been it, but yeah, definitely was feeling like I couldn't get to sleep while we were on holiday, which again wasn't helpful. Late nights, early mornings, toddler holiday. So while we were away, I had like this horrendous reaction to, I'm not sure whether it was like sun cream or just the sun. I have had it on holidays before, but it was just awful. I just broke out in hives. I was so itchy, so uncomfortable the entire, well no, not the entire time we were away. It started at like day 3 or 4. So for the rest of the holiday I didn't want to risk putting sun cream on it because it irritated like my eczema so bad, and I was just having to like boil in hot shower as hot as it would go on my wrists, like behind my legs, anywhere that was like flaring up, and it was even on my neck, which I've never had eczema on my neck before, so that was just horrendous. It was like the worst. It really did kind of ruin the holiday a bit for me, and I was ready to get home. But once we got home it was fine, so I don't know whether it was sun cream, the heat, I don't really know. And then the last symptom I've wrote down for week 11 was, so after we got off the plane, my legs were like so cramped, which was a bit worrying because with pregnancy there's the risk of blood clots in the leg with flying. However, that is typically much later on in pregnancy and for very long flights, and our flight was so short at 2.5 hours, so I really didn't think it was that, but it lasted all night. So we landed at like 1 o'clock midday, and by 8 o'clock that night I was in agony still. We went to the shop and I literally could not even walk around the shop. I was in so much pain. I was using a hot water bottle, having them elevated, trying everything, and nothing got rid of them. But luckily I just went to bed and woke up the next day and it was gone, because yeah, that was horrendously uncomfortable. And then last but not least, we've got 12-week symptoms. So moving into like the second trimester kind of. So 12 weeks, my gums started bleeding, but it's only in like this one specific spot. It's so random. My gums typically are still bleeding. However, I've got this one spot that is literally just really bleeding. Every time I brush my teeth, or like if Marley bangs me in the face, it's just gross. It's not exactly nice at all. Yeah, I do need to go to the dentist, get that checked out, because here at 17 weeks it's still a thing. I wrote I was still feeling sick, but again, it's just on a morning just before breakfast, gagging, running to the toilet, ugh. But it was, as soon as I've got that first meal in me, I'm fine. Or if I start to get hungry throughout the day, it kind of creep back in. So still snacking at 12 weeks. I've wrote that I was starting to notice my bump kind of at my belly button now, instead of being really low. When I woke up on a morning, it was like higher. I feel like my bump definitely started to make more of an appearance at 12 weeks, not just on a night as well, but even like on a morning when I first woke up, it was kind of there. Not noticeable, not like, you know, a full-blown baby bump, but there was something there. But that I was definitely still feeling emotional, specifically about Marley, just thinking about him becoming a big brother, not being a baby anymore, the fact he was 1. Yeah, a lot of emotions and feelings around that. I feel like my motivation kind of started to come back at 12 weeks, not like pre-pregnancy, just cracking on with the day, but definitely, you know, it was coming back. I was able to get ready, go out more, do more activities with Marley, yeah, just kind of step back up into that normal life. Between weeks, I think it's like 9 and 13, I literally didn't film anything. So yeah, it was really kind of after that 13-week mark that I've started to feel better, been able to put a bit of makeup on and get ready for the day and do things. Before that, it was just a struggle. I wrote that I was still having like insomnia, still really struggling to get to sleep at this point. So it probably was just pregnancy rather than all the stress and worries, but I'm sure they didn't help. Because at 12 weeks, there wasn't much going on. We'd already had our scan by then. We had it at like 11 weeks and 6 days. So yeah, just insomnia, pregnancy insomnia. And then the very last symptom I've got down for first trimester, which I think probably did start before the 12-week mark, but definitely took full force at 12 weeks, was breathlessness, which is very much still the case. Yeah, just not even having to do anything and being out of breath. Just sat watching telly, out of breath. I've noticed it is a lot worse on a morning. I don't know if there's like a reason for that, but yeah, just trying to make breakfast on a morning, and while like the porridge is in the microwave, I'm like sat on the floor like trying to catch my breath. So yeah, that has not been fun. I did speak to my midwife about it, and she thinks it's maybe a bit of like asthma and hay fever kind of combined, but I don't know. So that wraps it up for my pregnancy symptoms for my whole first trimester. I hope somebody at least found this video helpful. If you have, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you, bye.